And we're live.
Dolphins cry.
Is that seriously what that's called? When dolphins cry?
I did not win, just dolphins
Oh,
cry.
it's it's
No,
referring to some kind of fact.
I wish it was about dolphins crime.
Oh, with the cute little flipper gun.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Hole.
Yeah, that's for some reason that sounds like if Earthworm Jim got to the third entry, there would have been a dolphin in like a suit kind of thing.
Oh, probably. That's Doug TenApple's thing. I hate gays, and I put animals in suits. I'm
I,
Doug TenApple.
I forget. Is he also the guy who did the Claymen?
He did do the Clayman.
Okay, there we go.
And
I
he
knew
did
there.
the Neverhood, which would have been a great Watch Out for Fireballs episode if I could support him.
Yeah, if we could put it out there.
Yeah.
Oh well, we don't have any viewers just as of yet. As we discuss dolphin crime, I'm
Uh,
just picturing dolphins like raiding the deep ones to get their magic faux gold.
people in the Slack channel say that they're watching, I think.
Oh, I believe so. Yeah, we have a for anybody who's listening, we have a Slack channel for our Patreon backers that is kind of acting as the chat room for the show. So we're going to be watching that as we go in here. We can stream it from YouTube on the PS4. Jeremy says,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. I had no idea.
Yeah. So the Slack channel specifically that we're using for the chat is general.
Yes.
Maybe eventually we'll make a dedicated channel for it, but for now,
Mhm.
general it is.
Yeah. There we go. The viewer count must be lagging behind. These numbers, that's where I derive most of my self-worth. So it's important that I watch them and
Some of these
chart.
people know about the dolphin crimes.
Yeah, yes, people do know about
We
dolphin.
know some dolphin crimes.
Oh my gosh. They know how to breach the surface of the water, the bank vault, and our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember back in the day when the internet was new and there were just a bunch of FAQs about fucking a dolphin that were like around?
Is this something that you stumbled over, or is this something you thought out?
Well, I logged on to Stumble Upon, and then I logged into Dig in the top.
Yeah, was it Upworthy?
Yeah, it was Upworthy. No, I was talking. Who was I talking about? I was talking about this with somebody recently that in the early days of dark internet, and not really dark, but just
and stuff.
Yeah, there was this dot text file about how to seduce and be seduced by a dolphin.
Was it like a persuasive pamphlet about why you should be down with a dolphin?
Yeah, they're good lovers according to Banana Fan 79 or whatever.
According to that one episode of King of the Hill.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was a thing though. There was this thing about, I remember way before I had the context for it, and I wasn't little, but reading about a dolphin lovemaking, frequently asked questions about that, which I only have one question.
Why?
Yeah, what? No question mark.
I mean, dolphins they're one of those creatures that we think are magical, but actually they're fucking animals, and so they do horrible things according to our human morality. So that's, huh? Wait a minute. So we got somebody in the chat room called Soul Blazer who's saying apparently dolphins are the only other mammals who can climax.
Maybe, I mean, other animals obviously produce sperm, but this is, maybe they gasm. Even though monkeys will gasm as well, because there are those monkeys that will just jay each other nonstop, and then there are also monkeys that have gigantor clitorises and will have sex with other lady monkeys with them.
That's funny.
So,
huh? People find the archway behind me upsetting. That's. It's literally just my just my living room.
Who's in that chair though, Cole?
What?
Who's sitting in the chair? I'm just fucking with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, he only shows up on the camera. This is some paranormal activity shit. Great. You need a set of GoPros.
Yeah.
Do you think if we tried to integrate GoPros into the network somehow, we would get a bunch of free GoPros?
We might. I don't know what we do with them.
I don't know either.
Like you could just watch us. It'd be like a let's play. Like you just watch us play video games, except that we look at our phone like every
Yeah.
10 minutes or 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like it's like the reason that I don't stream when I'm playing for a show is because I'm stopping every 3 minutes to take a note.
Yeah.
So
Also, I
we
like to like pee and and look at my phone, and I
yeah,
listen to podcasts instead of stream a lot
yeah,
of times. So.
yeah. That's the thing.
Hmm.
Huh. Should we explain to people what this is? If this is their first go around.
Yeah. Yeah. This is Duckfeed Live. So this is our show, our monthly show that we broadcast live. It's also a podcast on the network, but it's mostly Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so.
Yep. Originally, this was for Patreon backers.
Mhm.
We decided to open it up because we want to get a little bit more of a party atmosphere, get more people to see this, get more exposure to this kind of like live monthly celebration kind of thing.
Mhm.
And so we got that open. There's still kind of a perk to being a Patreon backer for this, though. There is a thread, a creation post on the Patreon at patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. And if you comment on that, your question gets read first before any of the others, either in the comments on the event or in the Q&A widget. So yeah, jump to the front of the line and go there and do that if you would like to.
Also, those priority questions, we both tell the truth, whereas other questions, one of us tells the truth and the other one lies. So
So it lends an air of mystique.
yeah, if you want actual answers, it's those priority questions. Otherwise, you don't know what you're getting.
Yeah, I'm looking at a picture of myself on
I've
a
never
big
fucked a dolphin. It was a lie. Uh,
I didn't look at that. Man, I remember like just like there like what is it? What, rotten.com, was that a thing?
oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
your premier source for seeing like a snake crawling out of a vagina in 1996.
Yeah, or like it was Chris who like brought me over to say, "Hey, do you want to see John F. Kennedy shot?"
Oh yeah,
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 it was a bunch of stuff like that, and I just like I don't know if I'm numb to it. Like, there's a bunch of stuff. Like, I didn't watch that fucking footage from the tragedy the other day,
yeah.
so I guess I'm not entirely inured to it.
But that's used to be the domain of rotten.com,
Yeah,
and you know now it's just the domain of twitter.com.
yeah. Now it just autoplays in your Facebook feed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn it! Why is everybody posting pictures of me on big screen?
You're just bragging about their TV sizes.
I suppose so.
Yeah, good job, guys.
Way to go.
Flat screens, bro. Um,
I use a CRT. I carried it into the basement and it never came back up because who could carry it back up?
it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need a TV as wide as it or deep as it is wide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a penis.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Am I right, guys?
Yeah, you guys are all rocking cubes, right?
They call me Snake Eyes.
Yeah, yeah, a B-Bell cube, right?
Yep. Yep. Oh yeah, the Power Mac Cube. That's what it
Yeah.
is. We have a priority question here. Let's start out with an easy one. Danny writes in asking, "Do you guys own passports?"
I like the phrasing of that question because it's not whether we have our own passports, but whether we just own like a collection of identities.
Well, you got to have a bug out bag, and that's obviously not going to be yours.
Real.
In fact, I intend to escape to Ecuador where I will be I'll be disguised as a pop singer named El Motil.
You can assume odd jobs under the name Mr. Pilkington.
Yep.
Deep critic. No, I don't have a passport.
Nope. I keep thinking that that's one of those things that I'm going to need to get. Like it's kind of like signing up for the like the TSA like pre-register thing, but I only ever fly once a year to go to Portland, so it's like I don't know.
But here's the thing, right? Like you need passport to you need a passport in order to leave the country, and there is this weird. I don't think the person who asked this question is doing this, but there is that assumption. There's an immense amount of like privilege when you're just like, oh, you've never been to Europe, like somebody's like, oh, you've never like. It's like no, it's really expensive. Like I was really poor growing up, and then I've had to work to pay rent and have not been able to afford to go to Europe or
Yeah.
anything like that. So whenever anyone, this person isn't asking this, I want to emphasize that. But whenever anyone just like, you've never traveled, like you've never been, and it's like, well, that's a loaded question, and there's a lot of assumptions in it.
Yeah.
So like, it's not that unusual. I don't think it's that unusual not to have your passport, because like,
Yeah, it's
you
something you
travel
get when
within
you
the
need it.
country. Yeah, it's something you
Yeah.
get when you need it, and like, I haven't needed it because it's super expensive.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I get that feeling too when people talk about it. It's like, yeah, actually, I feel really bad that I haven't, because it's something I want to do, but it's never something I've been in a position to. Like, I'd love to fucking like go to Scotland or something, go to Germany. Like,
you
one of my
shouldn't feel
biggest
bad
regrets.
though. Like,
What's
don't
that?
let anybody, you shouldn't feel bad about it. Like, it's
Oh
just,
no,
it's
like
a,
that's just something I think about on my own. It's not something that like other people inflict on me. It's just like, oh, I wish that was a thing.
yeah,
Eh,
it's a luxury, and
yep.
it's a new luxury. It's like, I feel like it's something that used to be less of one. You
Yep.
know, look at that, run,
Sorry.
Holland. Um,
Yep, Holland has two of me.
yeah,
Huh.
get out of there.
Another priority question comes in. Holland writes, the time to pay for the dark gift has come. You must choose one system, console or handheld, to play for the rest of your life. PC is not an option. Keep in mind, you don't magically get all the games for said system. You still have to buy the games as you normally would in this day and age. Which do you choose? And I imagined he like holds up an orb and goes,
The which pill. The you have to buy the games thing is a good question, because you have to take into account how much games
rarity.
cost
Yeah.
for now. So like, if you were to say Super Nintendo, and if you want to play like Earthbound and Chrono Trigger and stuff, you have to hunt down, you know, these hundo buck games
Hmm.
for it.
Yeah.
Um,
But if I wasn't buying like modern games, then immediately there's a whole bunch of, budget that gets freed up for that. It's
that's
less
true.
bang for your buck, but it's, not as galling when you think, well, I've got to buy like Metal Gear Solid and Mario Maker. So I
Yeah,
can't buy this copy of Earthbound. It's like, oh well, okay, I'll just save up for this big one while I, churn through some Barclays shut up and jams.
yeah. I might go PS2.
God damn it, that was my answer too. I was thinking
Yeah,
about that all morning.
yeah. PS2 is really good.
Give your rationale for that.
You can still play Deus Ex on it. Um, it has like really, really good long form like JRPGs. Like, the JRPGs on it are really good. So
Hmm.
like, Final Fantasy X is really good. Dragon Quest 8 is really good. Um,
So the thing that like tipped for the PS2 and my tip that for me was the backward compatibility.
oh, I guess that's true.
It
I
breaks
feel
the
like that's
spirit.
that's violating the spirit. Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel like you probably can't do that.
yeah. My
Um,
my my, my other response for that was going to be the DS, actually, like a DS Lite,
yeah, DS is really
because I love me my DS games, and having access to the GBA catalog gets you like Final Fantasies 4 through 6 and
good.
stuff. Like,
Again, if you get the backwards compatibility, like, if
yes,
it's,
if
we
you
don't know
do,
who's proctoring this, like, dark
yeah,
quiz.
yeah.
Um,
This dark quiz. Oh, well, yeah, we do. It's Holland, and
yeah, but
Holland's in there.
what rules he sets. See, now I'm not as jealous. Look at all, now there's pictures of me on the thing.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mikhail. But yeah, like, PS2, like, there's just like a lot of really good stuff on it.
and prices are still really cheap. Like, I don't know what the most expensive PS2 game is right
Yeah, it's
now.
gonna be some like Atlas
Yeah.
thing, but even like you could just get all the like for some reason the Disgaea games are not expensive,
Hmm.
and those are, where you have to do 100 levels of each weapon to power them up and stuff. Like, if you're on a desert island, which I
Yep.
don't know if a desert island is part of the question or just implied,
Hmm.
but if you're on a desert island, like,
It's one system and all the games you can get for it on that desert island.
okay, yeah, so any game you can construct out of sand,
Yep.
the like a Gilligan's Island kind of thing. Like, this is my coconut and palm tree version of the PS2 port of Deus Ex. But yeah, like the PS2, I think would go. But DS is really, that'd probably be my second answer. DS is great.
Yep. I mean, just looking at my shelf. Yeah. Yeah, probably either of those. Yeah. So those are the only two priority questions that we have. We have a couple that are kind of floating in through here. Nick is watching, Nick Daniel, and he has less of a question and more of a demand. Talk about the book, Gary.
Okay, I guess I thought I did something wrong. The backdrop is a rug. I actually, real quick, I'm going to answer Hammer's chat question before I answer Nick's. But because I found a really amazing tapestry that I'm going to put up behind me for these, but I haven't put it up yet. But it's a really badass purple dragon that I found. So my backdrop will start looking good soon. I will talk about the book. I didn't really pimp it to Patreon because I feel like people are already giving me money on Patreon and they probably see all the other channels. But I'm very close to making my Kickstarter goal. I'm a little bit over $300 and 23 days left, I think.
Yeah.
So it's been a week.
And this is the first full weekend that'll be up too.
Yeah. So I'm writing a book. It is a Worlds of Power parody book, as if Dark Souls was a Nintendo game. And there are all kinds of cool. So Nick's doing the art. Nick is heavily invested as well, but he's working on that with me, which is great because he's really, really good, and everything he sent me I really loved. I'm going to do another backdrop as kind of a final push, because the sooner I actually get that goal, the sooner I can start working on stretch goals. And Cole, I think it was you and I were joking around on Abject Suffering and found that Business Pogs website. I'm going to use businesspogs.com and make pogs for the book. So I'm doing all these 90s marketing things. So one of the stretch goals will involve pogs. One of them will be a comic, things like that. So I'm doing some 90s marketing things. I guess comics aren't explicitly 90s, but and I want to do trading cards as well. I want to do like Fleer style, like trading. The 100, 108 of them, and they're just a picture of a character and then a bland description of the scene, or a picture of the character and then power ratings, which I also might do on the stickers. But yeah, I'm trying to get to the stretch goals for it. The book is about halfway done being written, and I wanted to. I had Bob Mackey stay with me last weekend, so I lost a weekend of work, which is not his fault. It was great having him, but I need to get back in the swing of things and start finishing. But I think it's pretty funny, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I encourage everybody to take a look at that. There is a brief break for promotion. There is a quick link that's Duckfeed.tv/Souls of Darkness.
Yeah, and it is unreasonably fun making up Dark Souls analogs for things, because one of the inspirations behind it was the idea that, like, if you don't know Dark Souls and someone just starts throwing out phrases, they're just incomprehensible, like incomprehensibly evocative. So I don't have to have the entire, like, it's not the game, it's someone getting sucked into the game and seeing parts of it. So, like, I can make references to the lonesome crypt of Galileo and stuff like that, and do these little fun item descriptions. In the book, in the game world, everything you pick up has a post-it note on the back that has the item description. And the main character becomes aware of that and starts using it to solve problems partway through the book. Nice. Stuff like that. So I've been having a lot of fun. So
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to see more of it.
Yeah, it should be, if everything goes as planned, it will be in people's hands by the end of November. So
awesome. Cool. Let's see here. We have one question that came up two actually that came up in a comment thread on the event itself. Greg Pollender from the SNES podcast writes in saying, being how you guys are huge Rock Band fans, how do you feel about Rock Band 4 coming out and the song list? It seems strange this is coming out when the whole music game craze seems to have ended. Will you get the game even if it bombs?
I'm pulling up the song list now because I haven't actually
spent too much
time getting hyped.
There's probably going to be some stuff. There have been like soundtracks for Rock Band that I've been like about before they came. I was like, I know that song, or I didn't realize this song was that cool, or I didn't think about that song. It got me to think about it in new ways. Right now, I'm in the spot where I'm recognizing bands more than anything. And it's like, oh, there's a Jack White song, cool. One of the better Queens of the Stone Age song of the past 10 years is on there. Stuff like that.
Two things real quick. I'm sorry, I just looked at the song list. I don't mean to cut you off. One, pertinent to this show, this song is on there.
What is it?
That's All Over You by Live.
Oh,
I'm excited about that. Two, one of the songs from my wish list from the Becker blog. can't remember if this is actually the one I wish, but there's a St. Vincent song on there, which is
Oh
super
wow.
exciting.
Hmm.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I haven't. It is obviously to me, it's like a grab to try to get music games to work again because there was never anything wrong with them. You
Right.
know, we covered that in the Rock Band episode. Like it's still really fun to do. So they're just trying to say like, hey, like I don't know uh, whether it'll be successful, but it feels like they're just kind of like, hey, there's nothing wrong with this, and it's been enough time for this to cool down. Like let's make
Hmm.
another stab. You
Yeah.
know.
The thing that's a bummer is that even though they are doing an awful lot to make the previous games and accessories and songs kind of forward compatible with
Mhm.
this stuff, you still have to be in the same console family. So if I
Oh
wanted to keep a hold of the instruments that I have and use the hundreds of songs that I have, I need to buy an Xbox One,
yeah.
which would make the Xbox One the most expensive accessory that I've ever bought for
Yeah.
a game.
Yeah.
And that is talking about Rock Band games. The previous most expensive accessory would have been a Rock Band drum set.
Yeah.
So, Mikhail's asking why I'm holding a knife because I like to fidget. I'm sorry.
It's a multi-tool.
Yes, there are several knives in this. I like to fidget. Sorry. Yeah, so that's the big bummer about it. Like I'd love to have music games back in my life, but I haven't seen anything about Rock Band 3's or 4's feature set that makes me think like, oh yeah, like Alyssa's gonna get in here. It seems like more of the same.
That's what I'm saying is like it seems like they're not really changing anything new, trying anything new. It's just kind of like this still works. And the thing about like getting music games back in your life is like when we covered Rock Band for the show and I had the set up in my living room for a while, like I played it a lot with lots of
Hmm.
people. Like it's really easy to get music games back in your life. You just start playing them again. Like
Yeah.
it's still really fun.
Hmm.
It hasn't gone anywhere. It's just a bummer that the backwards compatibility is such a pain in the ass, and that they haven't done more with it. But I also feel like there's not so much more they could do with it. You
Yeah.
know, like does that? I wasn't thinking about there being after keyboards like what they're gonna do. What
Hmm.
they're gonna add and change it. And I might be wrong. I haven't played it yet, but
Yeah.
the and I probably won't play it because I probably won't get it. I'll play it if somebody else has it. So.
Meanwhile, actually, so last weekend I had family in town. We were down in Cincinnati's Fountain Square, and there was like some kind of big Reds like tailgating event kind of thing. And we were just walking through there, and I saw Sony of all people had like a tent set up with Guitar Hero Live
Oh, okay.
there, and
Live.
about
Finally, like it's from the makers of Guitar Hero Aerosmith and Guitar Hero Metallica.
yep,
Yes.
lightning finally struck, Gary.
Like, are you a freak? Uh,
um, and unfortunately, there was a country bland. Yeah, it was a country bland.
ooh, like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, was blaring behind me, so I couldn't hear the music. But I got to try the new controller with the 2 rows of buttons on it, and it was kind of cool actually. Like I dig that interface. Like it's just the three, but there's white and black up and down, so you make rudimentary chord kind of
Hmm.
configurations. Yeah, it was neat. I didn't like the FMV kind of side of it. It was a little bit distracting, but yeah, it was just Guitar Hero except with a new control scheme. Which, I mean, if that's the question, like, oh, what are they going to do? Anything different? Well, just change the visual presentation slightly.
Yeah, and they're trying something. It doesn't necessarily mean like it's an upgrade.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's better, but also, I could also. It sounds like it. It sounds like a difficulty jump. Like the easy people who would be just starting would have a really hard time with that.
Hmm.
Thinking of the buttons on a different axis.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Like so in the songs I played like a Black Key song, which is going to be easy enough anyway. For the first 3 difficulty levels, like she was like, we're going to start you on easy, and I felt like a dick saying like, actually no, I'd like to, more hurt me more,
Yeah.
please. Until it was finally experts like, oh, do you play real guitar? I'm
Yeah. Hey,
trying to
Sony
play these games.
representative. Are you
What's that?
impressed? I said, hey, Sony rep.
Yeah,
Impressed?
what up, girl? I'll play you some Wonderwall.
Yes, yes, I do play guitar.
Yeah,
I've been
it's
experimenting with a little something I like to call sound shapes.
like
Like,
Yup. No, so I felt like I didn't want to be like the I've been doing this for a while kind of thing. It was like, oh, I'm not having fun with just like bonk bonk bonk. I want to let me see what this thing can do.
yeah.
That's an awkward situation. I don't like playing games in public.
No,
No.
no.
Oh well, my family was patient though.
They do at PAX, like, and I don't even know if they still do it because I haven't gone for a couple of years, but they used to do like have a big rock band karaoke set, which like I like it's a cool idea, but then also you're just kind of like playing rock band in front of like a bunch of PAX people eating lunch, and that is weird to me. Like that, I never actually did it. I just watched people do it while I ate because it was loud in there.
That just kind of seems like a thing that would draw the people who play nothing but Dream Theater to impress people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there are people like that's one of the things I liked about PAX, even though like obviously like not enough, but that there were different kinds of like participants because there were probably people who like went and just like practiced and formed bands similar to like the rock band karaoke thing.
Yep.
Just go there to, to show off, which is not a mean way. Go there to
No,
perform,
no.
I guess.
Hmm.
Which is kind of cool. Like it supports multiple different kinds of users.
Yep. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm gonna be curious to see how it reviews. Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna take off, especially with how expensive the instruments are now.
Yeah.
They're like $100 more expensive than they used to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't afford that.
No. Nope. 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 Let's see here. Chase says that he's here. Hey, Chase.
Hey, Chase.
Um, Brian writes in. We're looking at stuff in the Q&A section. If you want to jump to the top of the line, go to the post on Patreon and throw that in there, and we'll do this here. But Gary, I thoroughly enjoyed your game. Great job, Brian
Oh,
said. Should we expect more in the future?
yeah. Thank you. I had two ideas. One was to do another short story based game in the same, like, for lack of a better word, engine. Keep the rudimentary like kind of functionality and stuff, but do the same art style. That would be based on a short story I sent out to some of our Patreon backers at like a high level. I did a horror short story I really liked called "This Band Could Be Your Life," and do one based on that. But I have and I'll spill the idea because I don't feel like hopefully no one will steal it. But next time I have this idea for a game in me, um, and I wouldn't be able to do it in an adventure game studio. I'd have to do it in RPG Maker. But I want to start working on it maybe this upcoming winter or maybe next summer. But I want to do an RPG that is about being a local band. So you're a local band, and in the shows and stuff that you do, like there will be elements of like set list composition. So like different songs will have different properties, and you have to um, choose, have a big closer, a big opener, and like read the room and stuff like that. Have that be kind of the equivalent of the JRPG battle system,
Mm-hmm.
And then also unload a lot of emotional baggage about what it was like to be in a fail a failure of a band for most of my 20s.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of like cool stories, like interesting things that happened, but also a lot of emotional stakes to that experience for me. So it's one of those things like when you come across like, oh, this is like a really ineffable and strong emotion. I want to try to express this in some way. It's one of those, and those are kind of blessings. You should grab onto those because they're powerful. And you can
Yeah.
those are the kind of things I want to do. So I might try to do that first one beforehand because I don't think it will take me very long, given that I have all the technical stuff. Real quick, again, another thank you to Sean Og Murphy, who helped me out a lot with that. But now that I have that code written, I can make a similar game with a different story really easily.
Right.
And
nice. Have you had luck with the itch.io distribution system?
yeah,
I'm curious about that.
yeah, it's super simple. It doesn't take very much money from you. It's very easy to link to and everything. And it was very easy to do. It's really easy to have extras up there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, they don't do any promotion for you. And like I did all the promotion I was planning to do. So I kind of like I had my flush and made a few $100 and then backed off and then that's it. Like I get like a sale a week now. So it's like $3 in my PayPal account, which is cool.
Yeah.
That's not itch.io's fault. Like it has been as successful as I expected it to be.
I mean, your first game.
Yeah,
like, that's
for sure.
yeah. Awesome. There's another question alongside this. Cole, your turn. When do we see Podcast Network story in the style of the Kairosoft iOS games? I don't know, like that. I don't know that I have the skills to do that kind of simulation, and I don't know how universal that experience is. I think it would be more like be more like a Twine game, maybe, where it's like, huh, you have a choice between either sleeping tonight or doing this. Like, it would be really whiny and like the sacrifices, but it's more like, hmm, uh, do you want to disappoint a bunch of people by like being a little bit late on responding to email? Yes or no? Well, no, I don't want to disappoint them. Not an answer. Brr. So,
You're describing you just end up making Depression Quest,
yes,
except the
exactly.
things that you, except like you just end,
It'd be my expansion of Depression Quest.
yeah.
Yeah.
Twine would be great for that because you
Hmm.
could do like Horsemaster, which was done in Twine, and you can do all kinds of like back end stat stuff.
Yeah.
In Twine, and it's pretty easy.
Hmm.
Like Twine would be a really good system for that if you wanted to like. I mean, it's like I'm not policing your tone, just basing on what you said. Like you'd have to find a way to express the tone that you want to express that
Yeah.
isn't as filled with self-loathing as like your elevator pitch just was.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't want to do that, like if you
Mhm.
don't want it to be like that.
Yeah.
But I think there's room for it. I think you could find a way to say it.
Yeah, definitely. It'd just be more like, oh, you had this one idea and worked at it for a very long time. Like, how do you encapsulate that in a game, right? The
Yeah,
advice that we give people all the time, which is just like keep doing it, even if you don't see a return, immediately, because like, yeah, and that kind of delayed gratification is hard to
the gamify.
like, represent, yeah, in a game in a way that is entertaining. So I
And it
think
would,
it'd be
yeah. Or, I'm
good.
sorry, it would read as false too because you would have like your turns would be like months,
Yeah.
and on the game screen it would be like one click, and but in
Mhm.
real life that's much more significant.
Yeah.
Um, you know.
Yeah. And then like also I don't yeah, it'd be how do you run a video game podcast network? That's really all we know so far. We have some ideas about how to, expand around that. We have a little bit of comedy with Teenage Dirtbags and those damn Ross kids. We have, that's plenty funny, but like it's still like a kind of thing. And the challenges around that are different than, if you were trying to do something, different than that. So it'd be hard. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Let's see. Jeremy Greer writes in saying, do you think that playing a game's initial version is important? In Dark Souls, for example, the game has vastly different drops. You get you get less souls and no humanity. If not important, maybe even interesting. That was a
Um,
weird sentence. I'm sorry. Could you
you
could
don't
you
need to
make that
apologize for
spelling?
Jeremy's weird sentence.
What's that?
You don't need to apologize for Jeremy's weird sentence. Um, but Jeremy doesn't have to be there. It doesn't. The stakes are low here. Well, friends.
Hmm.
I think it's interesting. I don't know if it's important to though. Like,
Like, so what do you mean by the initial version? Like the non-patched version?
yeah, he means
Yeah.
before it gets patched and changed. So,
Yeah.
like an easier example is with Dark Souls 2. So,
Hmm.
like Shrine of Amana, power hexes, and the
Yeah.
like.
Or my secret fear, which is Bloodborne. The last half of Bloodborne was only easy because of the
Yeah,
weird
the memory
sleep
dump glitch.
glitch. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm kind of dreading getting to that point again,
me
actually.
too, brother. Like, we're committed to facing challenge dungeons, which means I'm gonna have to fight hard mode Abritus. And
Ugh.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh well, we'll have help. Yeah, I think it's interesting, but it's kind of like I it's something that's only happened for like the oldest of MMOs, really, I think. Which is kind of the legacy servers. So like that one server that is my my Harlan Ellison trap, the 2002 EverQuest,
mm,
locked in time forever kind of thing. Like I almost wonder if there's going to be some way to easily do that. I guess you could like wipe your 360 and then just load it in without having any kind of internet connection. But that changes the experience too by not being able to play online, and that's part of it as well, or being to be invaded. It's weird.
yeah, yeah. It is. It is interesting though because it does give you a perspective. But I feel like I'm starting to feel like a broken record. Like I think it's really cool that developers change things in response. You
Hmm.
know, and there are a lot of different ways they can do it. And I was talking on the Slack channel about a Darkest Dungeon, which is one of my favorite games of last year. that's nearing release now, and they took a weird, they tweaked things enough until like they made like a change that was really divisive with the fan base, that they really felt strongly about, but the fans hated it. So they make it just optional, you know. And like we talk a lot about how like it's your game and you can experience it how you want, like
Mhm.
it's obvious, and they can also put it out the way they want. But if they want to have both, I think it's okay.
Mhm.
And they've done that. They've made that change, which I think is really cool. So if you want to play this version that is like the tough as nails, like kind of RNG will fuck you over version of Darkest Dungeon, you can. If you want to play a slightly easier version before they implemented this change, they always meant to change. You can. They're letting you roll back the version on your own, like they're building it into the game.
Right.
So it'd be like if in Dark Souls 2 you could roll back the hexes and roll back the
Mhm.
Shrine of the Mana tracking, all that stuff. And I think that's cool. Like I think like letting the person who's playing decide how they want to do it.
Mhm.
There's no harm in that. Like that doesn't,
Yeah.
I don't think it damages the integrity of games as a medium or anything.
And it's kind of funny because Dark Souls has the capability for that built into the narrative as well. Like if
Oh
there
yeah,
was some kind of stone you could burn to say, do you wish to, change the fundamental forces of the universe?
yeah.
And that is just something that does it. It's a little bit like I don't know, like world tendency a bit, I think,
Mhm.
in a strange way.
Well, yeah, like Dark Souls, the Souls games will allow you to adjust difficulty on your own through those kind of ways on the fly. But then once they introduced aesthetics in
Hmm.
number two, that's kind of what it is. Like it's rolling, it is changing. Not the patch version so much,
Hmm.
but changing, like making as grand a change as that in system.
Hmm.
Which I think is cool. Like that's a good thing. I miss bonfire aesthetics.
Yeah.
Like that was a good item. Like that was a good choice.
Well, yeah, I mean, even in Scholar, that's something that changed about the bonfire aesthetics. I don't think we talked about in the episode, which is you will actually get the new game plus versions of bosses
Yeah.
if you use the aesthetics.
So again, like if I don't want to go through and just actually do all of the new game plus, if I just want to fight the versions that drop the great old or the great old souls or what have you,
Hmm.
let me do it. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. Like that's the thing with when I was replaying Bloodborne that was frustrating is when I was doing the Chalice dungeons, I have a new game plus character who I was going through them and didn't realize until partway through that I never beat Abritus with her. And in Dark Souls 2, I could just pop a bonfire or bring a character who was an endgame and pop an ascetic. No, that's not true because she would be dead if I could pop an ascetic. I remember there just being something where I wanted to be able to zip somewhere and do something with that. But this is
Yeah.
the kind of thing. This is live, guys. So that's the kind of thing I would have edited out because I lost my train of thought halfway through my compassion sentence. So there's a little bit of how the kimono was made.
Yes, how the kimono is woven
Yeah,
by the kimono bugs.
yeah. That is the kind of dumb sentence I just had said that I would have edited out.
Hey, Chloe, can you drop a marker? I'm going to go back and say that
Yeah. Can I say that more eloquently?
again. Also, marker elegantly.
Can I say that more elegantly?
Yes, yes. We have another priority question here. Jeremy is rejoicing about making Duckfeed Live into another episode of Bonfireside Chat. But Mikhail writes in saying, how do you personally make the distinction between a pejorative, hey, think about it work, and a work with a well-executed message? There's a part two to this, but the whole think about it, the characters are dying in the game, and maybe you don't think that death is a big deal, but in real life it is. Think like a less tactfully executed Spec Ops.
Mm. Versus like a game that does it well.
Yeah, yeah, or I suppose so. Yeah. So Spec Ops is a game that does that kind of well, but is still pretty blunt. Let me rephrase this: games that are pretty obnoxious about having kind of a message, first and foremost, or are a little bit inelegant with the way that they get it across, versus games that kind of use the medium as to an advantage, right, to help you think about something new in a different way.
Yeah. I don't think there's like one answer for it, right? Like it's just
No.
That's part of whether part of if a game is successful at that is the hand with which they do it. And like I love Spec Ops. I think Spec Ops did that really well. But the reason why they did it well is you have to think of it in the context of like going into it as a shooter game.
Hmm.
If you just think of it as like you go into Spec Ops and you know that it's gonna, chide you about liking shooters, then it doesn't have that impact.
Hmm.
If you go into the series that was like 15 games long before this and was entirely about glorifying war, and then suddenly turned on a dime, and think of it in terms of like the long con, then it works. But
Hmm.
that's the reason why that game works that way. I don't know if that trick would necessarily work for other things. That's not a general rule.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Uh, I agree. I just think it's you know when you see it. I think subtlety is good, except when it isn't. You know,
Yeah.
like sometimes a tonal shift hitting you over the head is exactly what you need, or is exactly what's called for. I think there was a game on iOS that like caused me to go on that think about it rant in an episode of the level. It was called like sometimes you die.
Mm.
And it like had a little bit of the aesthetic of like a monochromatic VVVVV. And it was kind of like Braid meets like Super Meat Boy. So it was this kind of difficult platformer where you were navigating these levels, and when you died, you kind of saw your corpse going through and doing the same, you making the same mistakes over and over again, which is a fine enough thing for an iOS platformer to do. But in the background, it had like just this completely tactless how many of these have you killed, and counters going up and stuff like that. It was just like there's a disconnect here that I just don't appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah. I will. My tendency, if all things are equal, is to give the benefit of the doubt to games that
Mhm.
do that. And the reason being is that I feel like it's not common
Yeah.
for games to do that. Um, and in my experience, the times where it doesn't work are either like that, where it is just one step too far, right? Like it would have been fine just to have a platformer where you die and die and die, and it's just like, hey, like, it's going to show you that a little bit, and it's significant in real life. Like that'd be fine, but then having the counter and stuff sounds like not obnoxious. I haven't actually played that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I can't handle, and it's kind of equivalent to that, is like JRPGs where the characters say the theme at the end.
Hmm.
Even some of my favorite. So you end up with like Final Fantasy IV, where like the characters are literally saying like, "Friendship is what we're going to do to overpower this cosmic force. Let's
Earthbound.
pray." Yeah, Earthbound. Well, Earthbound is cool because they're praying to the player,
Oh yeah.
right? Like that's cool. Like Earthbound did something neat. Final Fantasy IV just had the characters you met in the game, pray to you from the afterlife to give you the power, and just kind of say like it's our connectedness that got us through this.
Hmm.
You so when the characters just say the theme, that bums me out in
Yeah.
that way. I don't know, but that's not always true because I love the like Doll Ember thing in Dark Souls 2, which
Hmm.
is just the theme like being stated
Yep.
in my description. Like, so it's just how many underlines there are. Like write the premise, but don't underline it too many times, I guess.
Yeah. I suppose. There's a second part to this. In which ways do you think interactive media differ from other media in respect to their ability to lean on their creators' intentionality to generate value and meaning?
I was reading Mikhail's follow up in the chat, so I might have to ask you to repeat that.
Okay.
Uh,
Let's see here. In which ways do you think interactive media differ from other media in respect to their ability to lean on their creators' intentionality to generate value and meaning?
um, yeah, that's hard. So the way that interactive media differs in that way is in the way that the creators can use the tools of interactive media to do that. So it's like a wider toolbox. When you make something interactive, like at baseline, you're gaining like complicitness on the part of the player. So if you're showing um, if your message is at all like a chiding message, the player is now complicit rather than being a story about somebody who did something.
Hmm.
And then you are gaining immersion, so you can make them feel it more. So those are the two ways that I think interactive media changes the ways that creators execute that. Now, did I mishear the question?
No, no, I didn't quite understand it. So I think that you answered it kind of in the way that I would, which is to lean more into the experience side of it. Most media is an experience that is kind of put forward, and like here, this is now a thought that you have, or something for you, to react to. The interactive side of it is kind of complicating the creator's relationship with the player or the
Mm.
consumer. and kind of trying to figure out how much agency is handed over, and how much agency the player thinks they have. And kind of that back and forth and trade-off is a little bit of where kind of the discretion of game design seems to come in, compared to other things. And there are examples of other media that kind of rely more on that for that relationship, but it seems something that is mostly unique to games.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mikhail followed up with that first bit and says, I think maybe it's how an execution of a message turns the participant into an object rather than a subject. So the idea, it's disrespectful. It is using the player rather than making them the subject of the message. But I don't, I mean, I know Mikhail is not saying this, but like, I don't think that's automatically bereft of value. Like some of my favorite gaming moments are when that's happened. I didn't really realize it.
Yeah.
Like if I'm being used and I don't know that that's happening, I think that's kind of cool. And then piecing that together afterwards is kind of cool. Like I'll go, even if it's unpleasant, like and feels disrespectful, like that's part of the breadth of experiences I'll seek. Like I will have a game disrespect me. I'd rather have that happen than it disrespect my time,
Yeah.
And sometimes if they're sneaky enough about it and subtle enough about it, I can kind of get into it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I dig it. Let's see here.
And I apologize if we misunderstood you, Mikhail.
Yeah.
It wasn't willful. So.
Yeah. Hopefully we make a little bit of sense there. Robin Young writes in, do you have any video game related secret shames or guilty pleasures? Shame is probably a bit strong of a word. Secret less shames? So yeah, gaming guilty pleasures.
I feel guilty about how often I still like to play Binding of Isaac. I put too much time in that, and it's a real turn off my brain and watch like a YouTube kind of thing. But I feel bad about playing that as much as I do. Not so much anymore though. I don't play as many games. Like there aren't games I don't feel guilty about playing games so much anymore.
Yeah.
So not so much that I can think of. Do you have a good answer for that?
Not like a specific game. We were talking a little while ago, I think it was like last night or maybe the night before, about how I actually like Super Paper Mario, which is an unpopular opinion. And we could talk about that in the episode when we cover that game. But that's more of like just an unpopular opinion than anything I feel any guilt or shame about. I don't know, like my backlog, I feel guilty a lot about being behind on assignment play when I get behind on assignment play, and that's less of anything to do with games and more to do with kind of the schedule we've set for ourselves, so it's like just I'd love to make more time for like current games. Like I'm staring down the barrel of Metal Gear Solid 5 right now and I don't know where it's going to fit.
Right? Yeah, I definitely understand that. So I have that bit as well. And then also like I will sit down sometimes and make like a list of like these are the games I feel like playing, and then just proceed not to do it and just play assignment shit instead. And then what I find that breaks through it is something will just kind of get to me and I'll just start playing it, like the irresistible stuff that pops up that I just kind of will naturally make time for, the things that, and I don't feel guilty about it though. Like eventually we'll do it for Comrade, but I've been playing a bunch of Shadowrun Hong Kong, and like I just knew like, oh, like that came out, I really want to play it. And then when I sit down, I could be doing podcast homework or other games that I feel guilty not playing. But I just love that game, so I want to play it. You know, it's getting through to me. I'm hoping Mario Maker will be a similar kind of thing.
Yeah. Like, I guess I shouldn't feel too guilty about playing other stuff like modern stuff, non-assignment things, because that is fodder for the level too. So like I don't even know what I'm talking about.
It's all assignment.
Yeah, like it all feeds in. I have taken the hobby plug and the occupation plug and put them together. So well, we can think about how wise that decision was at a later time, but let's see here. Nick Daniel writes in saying, "What's the best monster manual?"
Ooh, second edition. I think second edition is really cool. It has a really good mix of like just dopey, stupid looking shit, along with like really kind of amazing Tony DiTerrelzi. I never know if I'm saying that name right. Illustrations, but he's the guy. He did a lot of the Planescape Torment art, which is really good. So it's like half really cool looking monsters and half dopey Gary Gygax nightmares. and just really comprehensive. Like, and then like the fair answer is that, like, I mean, the real thing is that that's the one I spend the most time with. But I like it a lot more than more modern ones, or like the Pathfinder Monster Manual, because those are a little too slick.
Yeah.
Um,
My answer is going to be a weird one. It's going to be the third edition Monster Manual 2. This is the B-sides of stuff that didn't get into the regular Monster Manual. And there's some clunkers in there. They're just like, here's a planar being that matches with this alignment, and here's how their society works and stuff. I'm never going to go to that plane. Don't tell me that.
yeah.
They're just like weird little cave monsters that will like give you irreversible status effects and stuff like that, or turn you into monsters themselves. It's like a real horror show in a way that like the ones that are designed specifically to be as dark and grim as possible aren't, just because
Yeah.
it is so off kilter and weird.
Yeah.
That also might be the case because that was the first Monster Manual I got, just because it was the only one that was at Walden Books when I asked for a monster manual for Christmas that one year.
And the earlier ones are really fun too, like first edition and then the Fiend Folio are both really fun.
Well, those have a bunch of Lovecraft shit in them, don't they?
The Deities and Demigods, the first printing of that does.
Okay.
I would love to get my hands on that. I just still don't have that because it's kind of out of print, but it's not so rare as to be ridiculous. But I eventually want to get one with the mythos in it. It's so frustrating that Chaosium cease and desisted that, because H.P. Lovecraft would have loved that. Like the idea, like, I mean, he wanted a, the set. I re-listened to the literary podcast just for funzos and in preparation, because we're eventually going to do our Lovecraft episode, and I wanted to revisit like summaries of the stories to see which ones we should cover for that. And there's so many stories and collaborations where it's just like some like 15-year-old kid or something writes him, and he's just like, will you help me work on the story and revise the story for me, and kind of use some of your stuff? And he's just like, yeah, like he worked with everybody, like for being a monster racist, like he was actually like also simultaneously like pretty sweet, and he loved people using his shit. Like he would have, he flip his shit for like the fact that like some Dungeon Dragons monster or Dungeon Dragons hero could fight all these regular monsters and then accidentally run into like Nyarlathotep in the bottom of a pit. He would love it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, just take my ideas and make cool little stories out of them.
Yeah. First shared universe, I want to say. That is.
Yeah.
Him and Robert E. Howard and those guys.
Nice.
So.
Sean writes, I'd like to thank Gary for the Stereo Lab episode on pilot season. It was the final push that made me check them out, and I've enjoyed them ever since. Do you guys have any other music recommendations?
Oh, thanks, Sean. Always happy to hear nice things about pilot season.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go first. I feel like I've been talking a lot.
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of Shearwater lately. I kind of cycled through the same 5 or 6 bands. This was a band that kind of spun off of Ockerville River, and it's a little bit more kind of like melodic and ambient, less like here's a rock band, and more of like a what's the weirdest instrumentation we could take while kind of having this awesome kind of like lyricism and content in songs that are like hybrids of like, we're painting this just completely destroyed, apocalyptic, reclaimed by nature world, but they're also songs about birds and trees, and like one album is just a biography of Nico Case from the Velvet Underground. Like it's
Case.
That's not Nico Case.
New pornographers.
Whoops, there we go. It was one of the Nikos.
Yeah, her she's just regular Nico.
Regular Nico.
Yeah. She's normal.
I misspoke. Yeah, but like one of them is a biography of her, but it's like super hidden under all this symbolism and just kind of like weird ambient kind of stuff, and it's great. I'd really recommend, like, for an entry point, like anywhere between like Winged Life and Rooks is probably going to be a good bet.
For a second I was thinking about if it was a biography of Nico Case, which would be very weird because they're contemporaries.
Yeah,
like they would share festival stages and stuff, and just be like, okay, well, we made this album about you. You're already in the same industry. Like, a little lady. Like,
it probably opened for us at one point.
Yeah, it would be a little bit milady if they had done that.
A little bit, yeah. No, not the case. It was Nico. Yeah.
That makes way more sense.
Yes. So I apologize for misspeaking.
No, I'm not calling you out. I just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Um, and I haven't listened to a lot of new stuff. I've been listening to, but I did go and see and has recharged my interest in Rat-a-Tat.
Hmm.
I went and saw them live, and it was, in the top like 3 live shows I've ever seen.
Hmm.
And was really pretty incredible. Like really really good use of visuals and light because they're instrumental band, lasers and visuals, and that's music that like gets me moving, and I don't have like a dance connection to music. Like I don't typically physically feel music or make it doesn't move me, literally move me, and Rat-a-Tat does. So they have a new album out called Magnifique, and it's great.
Nice.
So and I've also been doing kind of a deep dive on those guys. LP4, which I hadn't listened to very much, and have been giving a second chance, and they don't have a bad record. Like they're really good.
Yeah. Nice.
So
also thinking here in September, the Eagles of Death Metal are going to be playing like 100 feet from my house. That's a little bit of an exaggeration. Like right down the line, like at the venue that is the #1 candidate for DuckCon, actually. So I'm going to go there and see that because even though they are the dumbest rock possible, it's self-consciously dumb and very fun to see.
I have no idea who those people are. I've heard that name, but I've never put anything together with it.
It's a side project. Like Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age is in it. They do like it's like Rolling Stones style stuff. It's fun. Guitar, jangly stuff. Yeah.
Cool.
Let's see here. Nick Daniel writes, when was the last time you cried? More recently than I'd like to admit, and for reasons that I don't want to discuss.
That was cool answering. It wasn't the same question.
Yes.
It sounded like it was.
Yeah, that was continuing it. No, I was heading it off with the past. I've been going through some stuff recently, so I'm not going to go into detail on that. Gary?
Yeah, I mean, also, I had some. Like I don't nothing good. Like I don't have like my girlfriend listens to a show called Crybabies, which is about like things that make you cry and media that makes you cry, and is really cool. But that doesn't happen to me very often. Like if I cry, it's because of something like really pretty bad, is going on. So like also for I probably not want to discuss it, and I discuss everything. Like I like. I tell you guys everything, but I don't necessarily want to talk about that. I'm not offended that you asked, Nick, but like it was not cute or a good story.
Yeah.
It was bad. So and again, more recently than I'd like to admit, and about something I probably don't want to admit.
Yeah. And see, I cry at the drop of a hat too. Like I will readily pull up the list of movies that I was like, yeah, this makes me bawl like a baby. Like Synecdoche, New York, American movie, Rudy. Oh God.
Yeah.
Like there's a bunch of that, but there's like you'll get into a state and like the theme song to Community will make me mist up, and it's like, oh God, what's happening to me? So it's like, I'm in touch with those emotions, but it's like, no, maybe not something for a show here as of recently. So thank you.
This is not the most recent time, but the first time I ever remember crying at a piece of media, which I don't generally do that still, but like I did when I was young. I remember reading the Lloyd Alexander Terran the Wanderer books, and I finished the last one, and I remember crying because I was thinking the main character is such a good guy. And that was it. Like I was just like,
did anything bad happen to him?
No, like it's like a middle reader fantasy thing. He did pretty good. But it was just I was just like, he's so good. And it wasn't even thinking like I'm a piece of shit and he's so good. I was just like, he's so good. It's, and it was in retrospect.
This world doesn't deserve him.
Doesn't deserve this fictional character.
Yeah. Let me think here. I cried at the end of House of Leaves, at the end of All the Weirs of Pern, because they like triumph over the thing that has taken them that has been their bane for the entire series. Yeah. I've talked about games I've cried at. Like
I missed it up in Gone Home. We talked about that. Like
dude missed it. Gone Home.
Yeah, dude missed it there. So like
I did miss it in a Stanley Parable actually a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dolphincries.tv.
A live enthusiast podcast. Well, I'm
It's me and
shocked at
nobody. It's me looking for guests. Um,
related to that, Mikhail Christensen writes, "What is your favorite sea mammal?"
oh, that's a good question.
If aquatic mammals are fair game, I'm gonna say otters.
Otters are great.
Yeah, I
Uh,
like a cute otter.
I love otters. I like sea lions a lot.
Hmm.
Both
I
both.
like manatees because they're big and dumb and dopey.
I still think manatees are kind of ugly. Like I can't get
Yeah,
over manatees like
yeah.
inherent like lumpiness. They look like turds.
But they've got those wide set eyes.
Yeah.
They're permanently wall-eyed. It's great. And I'm not a person who likes like, oh, there's a pug, he's deformed. I'm not like one of those guys. But
Yeah.
like I like the way a manatee moves, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not that big
I
of a
would go
fan
with
of dogs.
otters too. Would actually be my answer.
Yeah, otters. Otters rule. Philippe is a special boy.
Hmm.
Yeah. Let's see here. Andrew was writing into us as though we were the Nintendo helpline. Where is the Dark Grave in Link's Awakening? I don't know. I know it's here somewhere. And then he amends it. Never mind, I found it. Oh, you see the wizard's keys. I don't know, man.
Yeah. I can never. Whenever I played Link's Awakening when I was young, and every time I try to replay it, I end up getting lost because I'll put it down for too long, and
Mhm.
just long enough to forget what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one of those stress points where that happens.
Yeah.
So I'm with you, but I have no answers for you.
Nope, no answers. It's one of my favorite Zelda games, but I remember nothing about it aside from the FedEx quest.
Yeah,
Oh, and Eagle.
I remember Link to the Past pretty well, I think, but
Yep.
not Link's Awakening, even though I
Yep.
like them both a lot.
Yeah. Let's see here, and we only have one more question, unless there's a final push here. But Jonathan writes in, "What other podcasts do you listen to or recommend?"
You go.
Okay. I'm always down for the Flophouse. That's one that I've gotten into, not recently, but like as of like the beginning of this year. And I will still, I can just go back and like listen to highlight clips on YouTube of like favorite goofs. Over the course of the run, just because I want to be reminded of them. I think those guys are really funny and really insightful, in that order. So that is kind of one that I am very quick to recommend to other people. But it's mostly the old standbys, like Roderick on the Line is my jam. Yeah, I would say those two are the perennial favorites. Sorry, there's no real surprise on that.
Yeah, I don't have any surprises either. Like I feel like I've talked about them. I mean, it might be new to the person who's asking, but like, I don't listen to as many podcasts as I used to because I no longer commute to work. So I just listen to podcasts while I'm cleaning or like walking to, well, I mean, I guess I do commute to work, but I don't work as many days.
Yep.
But I've gotten really into, and this is not my favorite, but it's one I listen to, and I don't know how much I've talked about it, but there's a tabletop podcast by a bunch of Something Awful guys called the NPC Cast that I've gotten pretty into, where they talk about board games and tabletop role-playing games, and they're insightful and funny in that order. Like they're not the funniest dudes in the world, but I like them a lot. Like they're very likable. And they do like the episode concepts are really cool. So like they'll do like they'll just break down like a tabletop system, or they'll make like everyone will bring in one word or concept, and then they'll make a campaign setting out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. That's really fun. Or they'll do like kind of game design challenges, like mock up a game, based on using only the parts from Monopoly, but it's not Monopoly.
Yeah.
Things like that. And that's really cool. Like I like that show a lot.
What's it called?
The NPC Cast.
The NPC Cast. Nice.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's on like my short list. I listen to that every week. It comes out. So.
Yeah. Here's kind of another one that like it's really easy to go through the backlog of because the episodes are relatively short. There's a great show that's run by the people who do Quite Interesting, that show on the BBC called No Such Thing as a Fish.
Mm-hmm.
And that is like they're the researchers from that show getting together and sharing like their 4 favorite facts of the week that didn't make it onto the show, and then each of those 4 facts has like related stuff inside of it. So it's really funny. They make a bunch of like jokes and bad puns as we're wont to do, but it's kind of just like a big trivia bomb that is a wonderful companion to something like, say, like Stuff You Should Know, in terms
Mm,
of like just giving you a bunch of stuff to rattle around in your head and draw these connections to.
mm.
Yeah,
Yep.
pretty good. We have a priority question here from Jonathan saying, how have you felt about the first few weeks of the Slack era? I felt
Good.
great.
Yeah. And so we I don't know if the episodes have come out. We talked about it on all the things we've recorded since then.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's going really well and it's really fun.
Yeah. Just watching the chat go by and people are kind of like talking, that is one of the most awesome things. And just as I think about like, oh, what's some of the cool stuff that we've done and what do we want to do more of, like that whole community side of it. It can't just be us interacting with you guys. We hold enough of you in high esteem, and like, oh, let's give you guys a place to like talk together. And it's been great to see how that's kind of like planned out, and I hope to continue to nurture that.
Yeah, I will sometimes feel guilty about not like keeping up with it enough. And then I realize like it's a um what's the word I'm using? Like it's a perpetual machine, like I don't actually
Yeah.
need to check in and stuff. Like it just goes. And that's really great. So I
Yeah.
can pop in every once in a while and chat with people and then
Yeah.
hop out and it just kind of keeps going.
Yeah,
Which I
it's a fire hose. I read all of it, and I kind of like jump in when it when I need to. And if somebody like specifically calls my attention to something, I will try and get to that as quick as I can. But it's been great, and it's been a very positive environment. And
Mhm.
I'm proud of everybody who is like in there keeping it cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully like there's that dream that like maybe we never have to like make shitty rules and stuff, or maybe we never have to eject somebody from it,
Hmm.
because it's such an opt-in thing that this might end up just being like a chat room where we don't have to like, nobody tells each other to kill themselves.
Yeah.
How novel would that be?
Hmm.
That'd be
We've
great.
already had people say like, yeah, I do this instead of Twitter now.
Yeah.
And stuff from outside gets in. It's not like a bubble or anything, or not too terrible of a bubble.
Mm.
But yeah, it definitely it's good. I like checking it during the day and all of that. I too feel like I don't get in there enough, but I have faith that water will find its level with it. And everybody seems to be having a good time.
If I still had my office job, I'd be in there all the time.
Yeah.
Literally all I would do at work. So it's just the fact that like I'm not in there sometimes because I'm like playing games. You know. Yeah, exactly, Mikhail. Like, what about racism against white people? Says the other.
The other chat room.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's just like we don't have to be like. So I feel comfortable saying like, there's no place for that here. Like, if somebody started on with that shit, like I would have no problem being like, no, I don't
Yeah.
want you here. But it just hasn't come up, and like, there's a good chance it won't.
Hmm.
That's really cool. You know,
Yeah.
because nobody wants to be like, nobody wants to be Dark Dad and
Hmm.
like have to like start booting
Yeah.
people out of stuff that they like. So if we don't have to, it's great. Yeah.
Gary and Cole haven't seen the secret rooms we created to harass game developers, have they? Gary, are we the new 8chan?
Yeah. Yeah, we secretly became inmate chan. Like these idiots are they're really trusting. You do whatever you want.
They gave them a forum, they gave them the tools.
If you ever the American Office later in the series, which are not well liked episodes, but
When their forum became like the den of pedophiles.
yeah, like they decided to make DunlearMifflin.com like the place for people to hang out and like share their paper needs. And it just became like got shut down. So it like became a den of pedophiles so slowly that they didn't notice it. Like
That was funny.
yeah,
I need to watch The Office again.
me too. There are seasons I haven't seen. Like I like the last couple of them I haven't seen. So
Yeah.
mhm.
Let's see here. Greg writes in, following up on the podcast question, I was curious as to what you guys do for work and if it allows you to listen to podcasts and or if you do any gaming during lunch or break time. Your podcast really helped my 8-hour work shift go by.
Whenever I hear that, I'm happy because I'm somebody who has mostly hated jobs I've had. So I like that. We had that. I mentioned it on a recording, but we got a review for Watch Out for Fireballs on iTunes as somebody who works on a coal mine for like 13 hours a day,
Yeah.
and says that like they listen to the show, and that's really heartening. Like that's
Yeah.
very nice.
I
Happy
mean,
to do that.
that's part of why I got into podcasts and then thought, hey, it'd be cool to make them. It's because I was trying to listen to stuff during my data entry job at a school supply company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to go first, Gary?
All right, I can go. I'm a full-time student up through fall, and then my day job is I work for 60 Minutes to Escape, which is a room escape game. And there I work from home part of the time, setting up special events and for corporations and stuff. And then the other half of the time I actually go in and run games, and that is doing there are very funny stuff going on in the chat. Don't think I'm ignoring it because it is very funny.
Double cakes. I think you mean crucial taunt, not lethal.
Yeah, yeah, I really like the Hearthstone chat is actually secretly attacking people in descriptions of card synergies because I'd never know. Like,
Yeah.
you guys like that could be code for anything.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, what a shitty way to get back at us for like kind of encouraging them to go over there.
Yeah, like we know these guys don't have time to play Hearthstone. But when I'm there, if I'm running an escape, you like reset the room and then you are like a hint master. So I watch people on security cams go through the game and then give them hints.
Yeah.
So
nice. I am. Well, I don't have a job title right now. The closest thing and the job title I'm pushing for is creative consultant at a video marketing company called Epifio. I've posted like some links to videos I've done. I'm kind of proud of in the off topic channel. But yeah, like I don't get a lot of chances to listen to podcasts at work or even do much gaming or anything. Like I'll occasionally do like an Isaac run at lunchtime, but most of the time I'm using lunchtime to do network stuff. Because I'm usually writing or I need to have headphones out because I need to respond to people who come up and ask me questions or get me in meetings, or I spend my time in meetings like just saying stupid shit and maybe it turns into a concept for a video. So not a lot of that. I get most of my podcast listening done at home. But yeah, it's tough to listen to a podcast when you have to do something that requires the verbal track of your brain.
yeah, if you're reading.
Yeah. Or writing or, doing anything. So I still listen to an exorbitant amount of podcasts per week, but that's just because I can't be alone with my own thoughts.
Yeah, so. I didn't answer that part of the question. I can't listen to podcasts at work. I can play games, and will sometimes bring in my Game Boy, but mostly I'll play iOS stuff. So that's why I beat all of the characters on all the difficulties in Triple Triad really fast. And I do a lot of stuff with what is it, Frauds? Like I'll play text adventures.
Yeah,
because that works really well. In that kind of environment. So
yeah, Frauds is great.
Yeah, well, Frauds is amazing. Like for free, like crazy.
It just plugs right into the IFTB, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I played Slouching Toward Bedlam. That's an awesome game.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm finally making my way in a concerted effort to actually beat Angerhead, which Angerhead is great, but it's like a 10-hour. You know about that, right, Cole?
No, I don't. Not at all.
Oh, it's really, man, it's up your alley. It is, it's up my alley too. It's explicitly Lovecraftian, but it is considered by many to be like the scariest interactive fiction game.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. So it's really good. It's like really well written. The puzzles are really good so far.
Nice.
So yeah, super good.
Cool. Let's see here. Cole, have you checked out Until Dawn? It seems like exactly your jam. No, I've seen I think Jeremy talking about it. I know Allison has, and Murph was talking about going into it as well. I saw like a couple of headlines for that I've been paying attention to for a project I'm working on. Yeah, I kind of just heard the premise and was like, yes, that is in my future. So have not played it. I'm kind of in the middle of assignment stuff right now, and then Metal Gear and Mario Maker for the kind of near future, hoping to pick up Until Dawn when it's on sale, just because I know it's a little bit of a shorter game and there's only so much money in the world. But yeah, it definitely looks fucking sweet. And I may even break down ahead of time and pick it up. Have you seen anything about this?
Yeah, it's like a slasher Heavy Rain.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but not made by David Cage. So
Right.
like,
So
I
it
might
has a
like it.
possibility of
Yeah,
being,
so it might be
you know,
good. Yeah.
yeah.
Zing.
1 second. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Um, it was hidden behind some bottles. Let's see here. Nick Daniel writes, "Is there ever going to be more Hex Crank?" Yes, it is in the works. I don't have a timeline for it right now. I said August before I realized that August was both Scholar and Paper Mario. But yeah, the Alone in the Dark episode and article are coming together. Yep.
Mhm.
And let's see here. This might be the last question, unless there are some other ones that roll across the finish line. Chase writes in saying, "Gary, not to force a hard left back to the Kickstarter, but when will we see what the Covenant of the Moon sign is being made into a patch? That is being made into a patch will look like."
It looks like the moon, but there'll be some text on it as well. And I am waiting. The company that's doing that, all my fulfillment is being done through a company called Make That Thing, which are the people who do all the printing and stuff for Topatico, the publishing company that Kate Beaton and Michael Cooper and stuff. So I have a representative there I've been going back and forth on, and any delay and things like that have to do with quotes. So I'm trying to figure out the shape that I can have it be. What I want to do is have it shaped kind of like a doorway with a circular, like a crescent moon at the top, and
Like it's an
then
outhouse.
yeah, well, like well, yeah, I guess so. Like a moon at the top, and then under it, the covenant, and then a slogan. And I'm going back and forth between a couple of different slogans.
Nice.
So that is why I haven't done a mock-up of that. I realized it would help people want it on the
Mhm.
Kickstarter if I already had that, but I'm 2 layers deep of relying on other people for some of the stuff. Like I talked to my representative who then has to check in with companies and stuff. So that's why there are delays.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Let's see here. We have another one, and we can kindle this if any kind of trickle in. But let's take a look here. Holland writes, "Going through the WAF backlog for the millionth time, and just curious, whatever happened to the Blood Omen Legacy of Kain episode that was teased? I don't want to play through it again, but I'd love to listen to you guys play through it."
Um, we started playing it and it was really hard and too clunky for like real life stuff
Yeah,
for
around
me, if
that
I
time.
recall. Like, and I think it just lined up with also a time for you. But I remember like emailing you like, hey, let's do something else. This
Yep.
is hard and like I don't have the patience for this right now because
Yeah.
that was
That was like
probably like the shadows of my divorce were looming at that point.
Yeah, no, that was like spring of 2012. That was around the time we did Klonoa, actually, and we both had access to those, and we saw that they were available. Like, okay, we can play more PlayStation stuff. But like the spring of 2012 was also when I was having a couple of personal issues, but also I was moving for work at around that time as well. And I was splitting time. There are a whole bunch of episodes we did around that time that I recorded in an extended stay hotel in Cincinnati, as I was like just basically living and working out of that hotel before I found a place. And it didn't match up.
Yeah, it's not that long of a game. It's just so clunky and frustrating. We just need something that would go down easier.
Yeah,
Like I have a lot of affection for Legacy of Kain and would like to do it at some point.
yeah.
I think it's more interesting than Soul Reaver, which also gets requested a lot.
Hmm.
I think Legacy of Kain is a much more interesting game. But it just we have to find the right time when we want to kind of swallow something small, but we have to swallow it sideways.
I like that. That's a good metaphor.
You know.
Yeah. Um, 1 second here. Oh, we have one more priority one coming in from Mikhail writing. Did you guys ever play any MUDs, multi-user dungeon games?
I poked around in them. I used to have so when I used to work at a place that dispatched tow trucks for motor clubs, and then also did this really scammy thing where it was a service where if you signed up for the service, we would cancel your credit cards if your wallet ever got stolen. And it did shitty like opt-in things, like you'd get sent a postcard. It's like if you don't want to sign up for this, send us back a thing, and then everyone would throw it away and get signed up for this thing. So it was mostly just like being yelled at about this thing.
Ugh.
And I worked with a guy named David Bythewood, who I've still been able to do a little bit of internet sleuthing around. Don't harass him if you look him up, but he's like the gooniest nerd I've ever met, who ran a mud and convinced me, because we were all into fantasy and I read fantasy books and stuff at work, convinced me to go check out his mud for a while. So I played in it for like a week, but I couldn't handle the people there, who were similar to he, who was so obnoxious. He was writing a fantasy novel, and me and my friend looked over his shoulder, and the name of the novel was Of Elves and Man-Dwarves. So
Oh man.
that was David Bythwaite's Of Elves and Man-Dwarves.
Ooh.
So my mud experience was shit. Like it was from the makers of Elves and Man-Dwarves.
From the mind that brought you
Yeah.
the concept of man-dwarfs.
Yep.
That's pretty funny. Yeah. I never messed around with one. I think I did like a little bit of like the worst possible version of that, which was like a play by post, but not like, there were no rules. It was just like message board role play kind of stuff. So that's shit. No. But like the closest I got was like EverQuest, which was a mud that had Dorito men running around at the top.
I've done BBS door games before. I used to play the Into the Red Dragon or whatever. I played that a lot on my friend's PC. When that what is Man-Dwarf?
Oh boy, that's a title.
Yeah, what is Man-Dwarf? But I used to play the Into the Red Dragon, that BBS door game, which is kind of similar, but they had weird free-to-play mechanics like way before they were way before they were useful, like they like energy systems and only being able to play a certain amount per day. That's probably the most similar thing I played to a mud.
Mm-hmm. So. Let's see here. Nick Daniel writes in again. Are you ever going to do an RTS for WoF?
Yeah, we keep bringing it up. Like I want to do that. I want to do either StarCraft 1 or Warcraft 3.
Yep.
Pretty bad. And I've got a hankering to revisit both those games. It will be a classic case of like these pasty nerds don't know how to socialize, because like I'm going to talk about the single player campaign. That's what I have experience with those games.
Yeah.
I never got into clicks per minute, serious competitive stuff.
No, like I have some StarCraft stories, but those StarCraft stories mostly revolved around playing whatever that kind of the StarCraft equivalent of Final Destination was, with the bases in each corner and kind of like the little causeways in between them.
I thought you meant the movie. Whatever the StarCraft equivalent Final Destination.
Yeah, where those
are the Protoss and they haven't had their vengeance.
Yeah,
it was you.
Yes. There was one dead Protoss who didn't get turned into a Dragoon, and his spirit is running rampant, claiming the lives of his countrymen. And he will not rest until it. Yeah. No, it was like the most basic, because it was shitty, because like I wanted to play like a map that was designed not for complete balance, because something that is completely balanced is fucking shit.
Yeah.
And StarCraft isn't, meant to be perfectly balanced. I don't think, like it just turns everything into a fucking inert gray sludge.
Yeah. I mean, it's remarkably balanced. The three races are really well balanced, but not perfectly so.
Yeah.
So, but that's up there. And then the so as far as oblique preview stuff, those are the things we're thinking about. And then also just a exclusive kind of thing. We have we're gonna do a stealth poll, I think.
Yep.
For our next poll. Is that the idea? I thought that was the case.
Yeah, that's one of the ones. Like, so we just gathered together like a bushel of polls. Would that be for winter, do you think?
Yeah, like we do that because we were going to do a shooter poll, but we're going to do Doom 2 in a normal slot. So we'll put off the shooter poll and do a stealth poll. So like people who have wanted us to play like things like Thief and the like.
Yeah, Thief, Hitman.
Yeah, Hitman. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be on there. Okay, cool. That was actually something I was going to talk with you about offline, what our next poll was going to be, so I can go in there and look at it. Yeah. So there will not be a Metal Gear game on there because we don't want that to run the to run the board. So.
Yeah. Also, like we'll, at some point we will do the Metal Gear games, but I'm okay spreading those out fairly far. Like I'm good with a Kojima game a year. Like I think.
Yeah.
So.
I'm down for that too.
Yeah.
So let me check the event comments and see if there's anything else. But it looks like everything is.
Really winding down.
Yeah, we're winding down. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating. These are going to go live quicker now that they're public, and I'm going to kind of change that feed around. There's some changes to the website coming down the line that I hope are going to make the experience a little bit better, a little bit more functional for people. But that is dependent on some things that I know are rounding out in development. So watch out for that. But in the meantime, I'm getting my best to make sure this stuff gets out there for you. But I really appreciate all the questions coming in. If you are a backer, the way to get bumped to the top of the list is to use that thread that goes out about a week before we record. And boy, just like this past month since we did the whole revamp to the Patreon has been amazing. Not just because we saw that number go up, but because of how positive the response has been to the changes we made. You know, it's awesome that we can adapt and learn. And you guys are out there and kind of giving us this feedback.
Mm-hmm. And also, you know, so we have those other milestone goals in mind, and I keep teasing at them, but they're neat, and they're, you know, it's more stuff. So hopefully that's enticing. Just real quick before the Crabhammer, I was looking at other Slack channels. Symphony Puzzle Encore of the Night or whatever, the Castlevania Symphony of the Night puzzle game on iOS is not shit. Don't listen to Jala. It's actually pretty fun. So.
What's that? Symphony of the Night is not shit?
No, the puzzle game on iOS.
Oh.
There's a game called like Encore of the Night that is like a puzzle game based on, has all the music and graphics from Symphony of the Night, but it's a gem dropping puzzle game, and is not. And Jala said it's not worth your time. I would argue it is. Like, I think that game's good. So.
I'm curious about that now. I had no idea that thing existed.
Yeah, I don't know how I found it. When I was early on in iOS, I just searched companies I knew. So I was like, what's Capcom doing? What's Konami doing? And like found it through that. So kind of an anticlimactic end to like everybody being nice and saying thank you. But I just happened to switch over, and I could not let that stand, but didn't want to like publicly like call out Jala and then not have, you know, then you have to go back to this and not be able to respond. I'm not calling her out. I just disagree. So
and it is a very one-way disagreement.
Yes. I'm sure we could talk about it. Sure.
Yeah. There's there was one other thing in the chat room, and like, an interactive fiction episode to watch out for fireballs would be awesome too. That's something we talked about. All of this is just a matter of scheduling and fitting it in and making sure it comes at the right time.
Yeah. Like we want to do an IF thing, and that will be like a history, and then we'll, you know, probably each play one or two and do book reports. It'll be like the game books episode.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much, everybody.
And that same thing someone was talking about is doing Zork. I don't want to play Zork.
Yeah, no, Zork, not too much.
Zork is obtuse.
What's that Lovecraft one? Not the Angerhead, but one of there was another one, unless it's what I'm thinking of.
There's an explicitly one. There's like the Shadow of the Comet.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say like there's one that is like licensed. Like there are two of them made by Chaosium, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that would be like I obviously like that, but I want to play the best of the best, because interactive fiction, like bad interactive fiction full of mazes and shit, is more than I want to take on. Like I want to find some things that go down a little bit easier while still being interested in the history of the ones that don't.
Yeah.
So
I definitely want to do Slashing Toward Bedlam. That is one of my favorite AF games.
Brayton has all of the Parsley games, so for the extra sode we can do another Action Castle kind of thing. He has the whole set. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, the Lurking Horror. Thank you, Narlu.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, Lurking Horror. That's one.
Narlu Lathatep. Prisoner of Ice is you're right. The Prisoner of Ice is those are the two that I was thinking about. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but I think one of them might actually be a graphical adventure. But anywho, thanks everybody.
Yes, thank you so much. We are going to go offline and keep an eye on the usual channels for when the next time for announcements about when this is going to happen next time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably near the end of September.
Awesome. So. Good night.
Good night.
Un basso.